The stars looked different from inside the command bridge of the UES Liberty. Commander Jake Morrison stood with his hands behind his back, watching the blue glow of hyperspace fade away as they dropped into normal space. The ship shuddered slightly as the engines powered down from their incredible speed. Around him, dozens of crew members worked at their stations, checking systems and preparing for what would be the most important moment in human history. Captain Lisa Carter walked up beside him, holding a datapad in her hands. She had been studying the alien languages for months, preparing for this exact moment. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was perfectly pressed. She looked calm, but Jake could see the excitement in her eyes. "All systems are green, Commander," she said quietly. "The translation programs are ready. We have 17 different alien languages loaded into our computers." Jake nodded and looked out at the massive space station hanging in the darkness ahead of them. It was unlike anything humans had ever built. The structure was made of some kind of crystal that caught the light from the nearby star and threw it back in rainbow patterns. It was easily 10 times larger than any human space station. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved around it like insects around a flower. Behind the Liberty, 11 other human ships had also dropped out of hyperspace. Each one was sleek and powerful, built with the best technology Earth could create. Admiral Kevin Shaw commanded the entire fleet from his flagship, the UES Defiance. The Admiral was a tough man who believed in showing strength first and talking second. Dr. Amanda Pierce stood near the science station, studying the readings coming in from their sensors. She was the mission's expert on alien life, and she had spent years dreaming about this moment. Her job was to help them understand the beings they were about to meet. The readings she was seeing made her shake her head in wonder. "Jake, you need to see this," she called out. "The energy readings from that station are incredible. They're using technology we've never seen before." The station grew larger as they approached. Jake could see landing bays opening like huge mouths, ready to swallow their ships. Other vessels were coming and going constantly. Some looked like metal birds with wings that caught the starlight. Others were round like bubbles, glowing with their own inner light. A few looked like they were made from living coral, all twisted and organic. "Incoming transmission," called out Lieutenant Ben Foster from the communications station. "It's in one of the languages we studied. They're asking us to identify ourselves." Jake took a deep breath. This was it. First contact between humans and the rest of the galaxy. Everything they said and did in the next few minutes would shape the future of their species. "Send our prepared message," he ordered. "Tell them we come from Earth and we want to join their council." The message went out across space at the speed of light. Jake could imagine it reaching the crystal station, being translated by alien computers, and heard by beings that had never seen a human before. He wondered what they would think of his species. Would they welcome them or see them as a threat? Minutes passed in silence. The bridge crew worked quietly, each person focused on their job. The only sounds were the soft hum of the ship's engines and the quiet beeping of various systems. Outside, the alien space station continued to grow larger and more impressive. Response. "Coming in," Foster announced. "They're granting us permission to dock. They want to meet with our leaders." Jake felt a smile cross his face. The first hurdle was passed. The aliens were willing to talk to them. That was more than some people back on Earth had hoped for. Dr. Pierce walked over to join him and Captain Carter. "The scans are showing something interesting," she said. "That station has representatives from dozens of different species. The biological diversity is amazing. Some breathe oxygen like us, others need different gases. Some are warm-blooded, others are cold. It's like a zoo of intelligent life." "Good," Jake said. "That means they're used to dealing with different kinds of beings. Maybe they won't see us as too strange." The docking process took another hour. Human ships had to be guided to special berths that could handle their size and power output. Jake watched alien workers scurrying around the docking bay preparing for their arrival. They looked like insects from this distance, but he knew they were probably as intelligent as any human. Finally, the Liberty settled into its berth with a soft thud. The docking clamps engaged, and Jake could feel the station's artificial gravity. Take hold! They were no longer floating in space. They were guests in an alien home. All ships report successful docking, Carter announced. Admiral Shaw is requesting all senior officers to report to the Defiance for final briefing before we meet the aliens. Jake nodded. In a few hours, humans would walk into a room full of alien beings and try to convince them that Earth deserved a place among the stars. It was a big responsibility, but he felt ready for it. Humanity had come so far in such a short time. Now it was time to show the galaxy what they could do. The council chamber was unlike anything the humans had ever imagined. Captain Ryan Brooks walked through the entrance, trying not to stare at the incredible sight before him. The room was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to stretch up forever. The walls were made of the same crystal material as the rest of the station, but here they glowed with a soft light that made everything look dreamlike. Dozens of different alien species sat in curved rows that spiraled up from the center of the room. Brooks had studied pictures of some of them, but seeing them in person was completely different. There were tall, thin beings that looked like they were made of light itself. Others were short and stocky, covered in what looked like living metal. Some had multiple arms, others had tentacles instead of legs. A few looked almost human, but with skin colors that ranged from deep blue to bright orange. Dr. Helen Martinez walked beside him, carrying a small device that would demonstrate human technology. She was nervous but excited. As Earth's top physicist, she had worked on the engines that brought them across the galaxy. She understood things about energy and space that most humans could barely imagine. Her brown hair was streaked with early gray from years of intense study, and her eyes were bright with intelligence. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Johnson followed close behind them. He was a big man with broad shoulders and hands that looked like they could crush steel. His job was to protect the other humans if things went wrong, but also to show the aliens that humans were not weak. His uniform was perfectly neat, and his boots made sharp clicking sounds on the crystal floor. The three humans walked down to the center of the chamber, where a small platform waited for them. Brooks could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching, their every move. Some of the beings whispered to each other in languages that sounded like music or static or the wind through trees. The translation devices in their ears worked overtime, turning the alien sounds into words they could understand. "Welcome, beings from the planet Earth," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Brooks looked up and saw a tall, elegant creature standing at what must be the speaker's position. It had 4 arms and skin that shifted colors like oil on water. "I am High Counselor Drakmor of the Centaurian Empire. Please state your purpose for coming to our council." Brooks stepped forward and activated his own translation device. His words would be broadcast to every being in the chamber in their own language. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council," he began, his voice steady and strong. "We come from Earth, representing all of humanity. We have traveled far to reach you. We wish to join your community of civilized worlds and work, together for peace and progress." A ripple of sound went through the chamber. Some aliens seemed surprised, others skeptical. A few looked almost amused. One being near the front row stood up. It was tall and thin, with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed like stars. "I am Senator Veltar of the Altarian Republic," the being said in a voice like wind chimes. "Your ships are powered by energy sources we do not recognize. Your technology appears to be far more advanced than what most species possess when they first contact us. How did you achieve such rapid development?" Dr. Martinez stepped forward with a smile. She had been waiting for this question. "Senator, We humans have always been curious about the universe around us. We ask questions and look for answers. When we find one answer, it leads us to ask new questions. This has made us learn and grow very quickly. "Show us," came a deep, rumbling voice from the back of the chamber. A creature that looked like a living mountain had spoken. "Words are easy, proof is harder." Martinez nodded and activated her demonstration device. A small field of energy appeared above her hand, glowing like a tiny star. The field pulsed and danced, throwing light patterns across the crystal walls. Every sensor in the chamber immediately started beeping and flashing warnings. "This is a zero-point energy field," Martinez explained calmly. "We extract power directly from the quantum structure of space itself. It's clean, safe, and virtually unlimited." The chamber fell completely silent. Several aliens were staring at their instruments with looks of shock on their faces. The energy readings were beyond anything they had seen before. "Impossible," whispered a voice from somewhere in the crowd. "The energy density alone should have destroyed your ship." "How? Do you contain such forces?" Lieutenant Colonel Johnson spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. His voice was calm but carried an edge that made several aliens sit back in their seats. "Perhaps your understanding of what's possible is more limited than you thought." Words hung in the air like a challenge. Brooks could see some of the aliens looking angry, others frightened. A few seemed impressed despite themselves. This was exactly what Admiral Shaw had warned them about. Humans had a tendency to be direct, in ways that other species found uncomfortable. A new voice spoke up from the left side of the chamber. "I am Ambassador Quillnash of the Zephyrian Alliance. Your energy technology is indeed remarkable, but technology alone does not make a civilization worthy of Council membership. We have seen many species destroy themselves with power they could not properly control." Brooks nodded respectfully. "Ambassador, we understand your concerns. Humans have faced many challenges as we developed our technology. We have made mistakes and learned from them. We have fought wars and learned the value of peace. We have damaged our world and learned to protect it. Each lesson has made us stronger and wiser." Dr. Martinez stepped forward again. "We're not asking you to trust us based on words alone. We're willing to prove ourselves through our actions. Give us a chance to show you what humanity can contribute to the galactic community." The High Counselor raised one of his 4 hands for silence. "The Council will consider your request. However, there are protocols that must be followed. No species joins the Council without demonstrating that they can defend themselves and their allies. The Karathi War Fleet will test your military capabilities in 3 days' time." Johnson's expression didn't change, but Brooks could see his jaw tighten slightly. The Karathi were legendary throughout the galaxy for their fighting skills. They had never lost a battle in living memory. "We accept your test," Brooks said calmly. "We look forward to showing you what humans are capable of when defending what we believe in." Admiral Kevin Shaw stood in his private quarters aboard the UES Defiance, looking out at the alien space station through his window. The crystal structure was beautiful in its own way, but he was more interested in the ships moving around it. Intelligence reports had been coming in all day about the Karathi War Fleet, and what he learned made him both concerned and excited. The Karathi were not like humans. They had evolved from pack hunters on a world where only the strongest survived. Their society was built around warfare and honor in battle. For over 1,000 years, they had served as the military arm of the Galactic Council, keeping peace through superior firepower. They had never retreated from a fight and never shown mercy to an enemy. A knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he called out. Captain Rachel Stone entered the room, followed by Commander Alex Turner and Captain Chris Anderson. These 3 officers would command the ships he had chosen for the demonstration. Stone was young but brilliant, with a natural talent for space combat that impressed even seasoned veterans. Turner was older and more cautious, but he could make a ship do things that seemed impossible. Anderson was somewhere between the two, with steady nerves and quick thinking. "Admiral," Stone said, "we've finished reviewing the Karathi battle records. They're good. I'll give them that. Their ships are heavily armored and well-armed. They use formation fighting and coordinated attacks. Very disciplined." Shaw nodded. "What about their weaknesses?" Turner spoke up. "They're traditional, sir. They fight the same way they've fought for centuries. They expect their enemies to use similar tactics. They've never faced anything like our technology." "Or our way of thinking," Anderson added. "These aliens seem to follow very strict rules about how battles should be fought. Humans have always been more creative about solving problems." Shaw smiled slightly. The young officers were thinking exactly along the lines he had hoped. "What ships do you want for the demonstration?" "The Freedom, Justice, and Valor, sir," Stone replied immediately. "They're our newest ships with the most advanced weapon systems. If we're going to make an impression, those are the ones to do it with." Shaw had expected that choice. The three ships were identical in design, but represented the cutting edge of human technology. They were smaller than traditional battleships, but packed more firepower than anything the galaxy had seen before. Their hulls were made from materials that could absorb energy weapons, and their engines could accelerate them to speeds that would crush most living beings. "Very well," Shaw said. "But remember, this isn't just about winning. It's about showing these aliens that humanity belongs among the stars. We want to impress them, not terrify them." Turner raised an eyebrow. "With respect, sir, sometimes those are the same thing." Shaw laughed. "Fair point, Commander. Just try not to completely obliterate them. We still need to work with these people afterward." Meanwhile, in another part of the station, Dr. Amanda Pierce was having a very different kind of meeting. She sat in a small conference room with several alien scientists, comparing notes about different species and their development patterns. The conversation was fascinating, but also troubling. "Your species developed very quickly," said Dr. Zilketh, a scientist from the hegemony worlds. The alien looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird, with feathers that changed color based on its mood. "Most civilizations take 10,000 years to achieve interstellar travel. Humans did it in less than 1,000. Pierce nodded. "We've always been curious about the universe. When we discovered that faster-than-light travel was possible, we worked day and night to make it happen. Competition between different human nations also pushed us to develop new technologies quickly." "Competition," repeated Dr. Mordell, a blob-like creature from the outer colonies. "This is what worries the Council. Species that develop through conflict often bring that conflict with them to the stars." "We're not the first species to have wars," Pierce pointed out. "Every civilization we've studied has some history of conflict. The difference is that humans learn to channel our competitive nature into positive things like exploration and scientific discovery." Dr. Zilketh's feathers shifted to a thoughtful blue color. "Perhaps. But your military technology is far beyond what your peaceful development should have produced. Your ships carry weapons that could destroy planets. This suggests that warfare played a larger role in your advancement than you admit." Pierce couldn't deny that point. Humans had indeed developed their most powerful technologies during times of war. The engines that brought them to the stars had originally been designed as weapons. The energy shields that protected their ships had been created to defend against nuclear attacks. Even their medical technology had advanced rapidly during conflicts as doctors learned to save lives under extreme conditions. "Yes, we developed many technologies during wartime," she admitted. "But we also learned that war itself was wasteful and destructive. That's why we formed a united world government and decided to explore space together instead of fighting each other." Back on the human ships, preparations for the battle demonstration continued around the clock. Engineers checked and rechecked every system. Weapons specialists ran practice drills with the computer simulators. Medical teams prepared for possible casualties, though everyone hoped there wouldn't be any. Lieutenant Colonel Johnson walked through the corridors of the Defiance, observing the crew at work. He had fought in several conflicts on Earth and knew how soldiers behaved before a battle. These men and women were confident, but not overconfident. They understood that they were representing all of humanity, and they took that responsibility seriously. In the weapons bay of the UES Justice, Captain Stone stood before a rack of tungsten rods. Each rod was about 3 feet long and weighed several hundred pounds. They looked harmless enough, like simple metal bars. But when accelerated to 15% the speed of light by the ship's magnetic launchers, they became devastating weapons that could punch through any known armor. "Simple physics," she said to her weapons officer, Lieutenant Dan Cooper. "Mass times velocity equals destruction. The aliens have energy shields and armor plating, but they can't change the laws of physics." Cooper grinned. "Think they'll be impressed, Captain?" Stone looked at the innocent-looking metal rods and smiled. "Oh, I think they'll definitely remember us." The Kepler system had been dead for over 2,000 years. Ancient battles had turned the planets into radioactive wastelands and shattered the moons into asteroid fields. It was the perfect place for a military demonstration because nothing living could be harmed there. Dozens of ships from various council species had gathered to watch the test, keeping a safe distance from the designated battle zone. General Vorthek of the Karathi War Fleet stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Bone Crusher. He was a massive creature, even by Karathi standards, with thick gray skin covered in ritual scars that told the story of his victories. His forearms each ended in claws that could tear through metal, and his eyes glowed red with inner fire. He had fought in more battles than most beings could count, and he had never known defeat. 12 Karathi battle cruisers spread out in perfect formation around him. Each ship was over a mile long and heavily armored, with weapons that could crack open a planet's crust. The crews were all veteran warriors who had trained their entire lives for combat. They were proud, disciplined, and absolutely certain of their superiority. "So these are the humans we're supposed to test," Vorthek growled to his second-in-command, Colonel Gracknall. "3 small ships against our entire battle group. This will be over quickly." Gracknall studied the sensor readings with interest. "General, their ships are much smaller than ours, but their energy signatures are unusual. Our computers cannot identify their weapon systems." Vorthek snorted dismissively. "New technology often looks mysterious until you see it in action. Then it usually proves to be less impressive than advertised. Prepare for combat." Several million miles away, the 3 human ships hung in space like sleeping predators. The UES Freedom, Justice, and Valor were sleek and deadly, their dark hulls absorbing the weak light from the distant star. Unlike the massive Karathi vessels, they were built for speed and precision rather than brute force. Captain Rachel Stone stood on the bridge of the Justice, watching the Karathi formation on her tactical display. The alien ships were positioned exactly as their battle manuals suggested, with heavy ships forming the center and lighter vessels protecting the flanks. It was a formation that had worked for them for centuries, but it assumed they would be fighting enemies who followed similar rules. 12 ships, observed Lieutenant Cooper. "They really want to make sure they win this demonstration." Stone smiled coldly. "Numbers don't mean much when you're using the wrong strategy. Begin charging." The main gun. On the Freedom, Commander Turner was having a similar conversation with his crew. "They're bunched up tight," he noted. "Classic defensive formation. They're expecting us to charge straight at them like cavalry." His weapons officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim, checked her instruments. "Magnetic launcher is ready, sir. We have a clear shot at their command ship." Turner nodded. "Wait for Captain Stone's signal. She gets the honor of the first shot." Captain Anderson aboard the Valor was running final checks on his ship's systems. Unlike the other 2 vessels, his role was to provide support and demonstration of human defensive capabilities. His ship carried the most advanced shields and armor humanity had developed, technology that could absorb and redirect energy attacks in ways that seemed to violate the laws of physics. "All ships report ready," came Stone's voice over the communication system. "Observer vessels, please confirm you are recording all sensor data." The response came from multiple alien ships at once. Every major species in the Council had sent vessels to watch this test. They wanted to see how these newcomers would perform against the galaxy's greatest warriors. "This is High Counselor Drakmore aboard the observation vessel Harmony. All ships are recording. You may begin the demonstration when ready." Stone's finger hovered over the firing control. She had spent months calculating trajectories and energy outputs for this moment. Everything had to be perfect, not just to win the battle, but to send the right message to the watching aliens. "Justice to all ships," she announced. "Weapons free. Show them what humans can do." The tungsten rod launched from the Justice at 15% light speed. To the watching aliens, it appeared as nothing more than a brief flash of light crossing the space between the ships. Their sensors recorded impossible acceleration and velocity readings that made no sense according to their understanding of physics. The rod struck the Karathi flagship dead center, passing through its heavy armor like it was paper. The massive vessel simply exploded, torn apart by kinetic energy that turned its hull into expanding plasma. The explosion was so violent that nearby Karathi ships were damaged by the debris. For several seconds, nobody moved or spoke. The watching aliens stared at their sensor readings in disbelief. General Vorthek's flagship, the pride of the Karathi fleet, had been completely destroyed by a single shot from a weapon they couldn't even detect until it hit. "Impossible," whispered someone on the communication channel. "No weapon can generate that much kinetic energy." Stone's voice cut through the shocked silence. "Warning shot complete. Shall we proceed with the actual demonstration?" The remaining Karathi ships hung in space, their formation completely broken. Colonel Gracknall, now the senior officer, tried to process what had just happened. His general was dead, the flagship was gone, and the humans had barely exerted themselves. "This is Colonel Gracknall to the human fleet," his voice came across. The channel, thick with shock and something that might have been respect. "The Karathi war fleet surrenders. We acknowledge your superior capabilities." A collective gasp went up from the observer ships. Never in recorded galactic history had a Karathi force surrendered without firing a shot. The implications were staggering. Admiral Shaw's voice came from the human flagship. "Surrender accepted, Colonel. We look forward to working with the Karathi fleet as allies rather than opponents." Turner shook his head in amazement. "We just made the galaxy's toughest warriors surrender with one shot. How do you think the Council is going to react to that?" Stone was already powering down her weapon systems. "I think they're going to realize that humanity doesn't just want to join their club. We're going to change how the whole game is played." The Council chamber had never been so quiet. For 3 hours after the battle demonstration, representatives from 47 different species sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had witnessed. The Karathi surrender had shaken the very foundations of galactic civilization. If the galaxy's greatest warriors could be defeated with a single shot, what did that mean for everyone else? High Counselor Drakmore finally called the emergency session to order. His 4 arms moved nervously as he spoke, and his color-changing skin flickered between deep blue anxiety and pale yellow uncertainty. "We have all seen the demonstration. We must now decide how to respond to these humans and their request for council membership." Senator Veltar of the Altarian Republic stood up first. His tall, stone-like frame seemed to tremble slightly as he spoke. "Counselor, we are facing a crisis unlike any in our history. These humans possess technology that makes our greatest achievements look primitive. Their single ship destroyed our most powerful battlecruiser in seconds. How can we treat them as equals when they are clearly our superiors?" A rumble of agreement went through the chamber. Many representatives were nodding their heads or making the equivalent gestures for their species. The fear was obvious in their voices and body language. "Fear should not guide our decisions," spoke Dr. Zilketh from the Scientific Observer section. Her feathers had turned a worried orange color. Yes, their technology is advanced, but we must consider what kind of species we are dealing with. They could have destroyed the entire Karathi fleet, but they chose to make their point with minimal casualties. This suggests restraint and wisdom. Ambassador Quill Nash of the Zephyrian Alliance floated up from his crystalline seat. His translucent body pulsed with nervous energy. Restraint, yes, but also a clear demonstration of power. They are showing us that they could take whatever they want by force. The question is whether their offer of peaceful cooperation is genuine, or merely a polite way of demanding submission. In a private meeting room near the chamber, the human delegation was having their own intense discussions. Captain Brooks paced back and forth while Dr. Martinez reviewed the energy readings from their demonstration. Lieutenant Colonel Johnson sat quietly in a corner, cleaning his sidearm with practiced movements. "They're terrified," Brooks said bluntly. "We came here hoping to join their community, but instead we've made them afraid of us." Martinez looked up from her datapad. "Maybe that's not entirely bad. Fear can lead to respect if we handle it carefully. The important thing is that they take us seriously now." Johnson snapped his weapon back together with a sharp click. "Fear without respect leads to desperate actions. Cornered animals are dangerous even when they're weaker than you." Dr. Pierce entered the room, looking exhausted from hours of diplomatic meetings with various alien scientists and cultural experts. "I've been talking to representatives from a dozen different species," she reported. "The general feeling is that we're too advanced too quickly. They think we might be unstable or aggressive." "Are we?" Brooks asked quietly. The question hung in the air for a moment. All four humans considered it seriously. Were they aggressive? Humanity had certainly fought many wars throughout their history. They had competed and conquered and expanded wherever they could, but they had also learned to cooperate and build and create amazing things together. "We're survivors," Johnson said finally. "We do what we have to do to protect ourselves and the people we care about. If that makes us aggressive, then so be." Back in the council chamber, the debate was becoming more heated. Representative Gorthak of the mining guilds slammed his massive fist on his speaking platform. "These humans are not just another species seeking membership. They are a potential threat to the entire galactic order. Their technology could upset the balance of power that has kept peace for thousands of years." "And what alternative do you suggest?" asked Councillor Nemri of the Trade Federation. Her insect-like features clicked together nervously as she spoke. "Should we reject them and risk making enemies of beings who can destroy our strongest ships with ease? Or should we try to work with them and hope they remain peaceful?" Dr. Mordell, the blob-like scientist, pulsed with thoughtful colors as he addressed the chamber. "Perhaps we are looking at this wrong. Yes, they are more advanced than us militarily and technologically, but advancement in one area does not guarantee advancement in all areas. We have thousands of years of experience in diplomacy, trade, and galactic governance. They are still newcomers to the wider universe." This observation seemed to calm some of the representatives. Several aliens straightened up in their seats looking more confident. They might not be able to match human technology, but they had knowledge and experience that counted for something. Senator Veltar spoke again, his voice steadier this time. "Dr. Mordell makes a good point. These humans may be powerful, but they are also inexperienced in galactic affairs. Perhaps we can guide them, teach them our ways of peaceful cooperation and mutual benefit." Ambassador Quill Nash flickered with what might have been amusement. "You speak as if we have a choice in the matter. They have demonstrated that they can take whatever they want by force. If they choose to be guided by us, it is because they allow it, not because we have any real power over them." The uncomfortable truth of those words settled over the chamber like a heavy blanket. Everything had changed in the space of a few minutes. The humans had not just asked to join the council. They had shown that the Council existed only as long as humanity permitted. And High Counselor Drakmore raised his hands for silence. We face a new reality, whether we like it or not. The question is not whether these humans deserve membership in our council. The question is whether we can find a way to work with them that benefits all our species. A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. It was deep and resonant, belonging to Elder Thrakmos of the ancient archives. The old being rarely spoke in council sessions, but when he did, everyone listened. In all my studies of galactic history, I have seen this pattern before. When a new power emerges, the old order must adapt or be swept away. The humans offer us a choice: evolve with them or be left behind. The words carried the weight of millennia of experience. Around the chamber, representatives began to realize that they were witnessing a historical turning point. The age of the old Galactic Council was ending. What would replace it remained to be seen. 3 days after the demonstration, the council chamber had been completely redesigned. Where once there had been a speaker's platform at the center, now there was a large circular table surrounded by seats at the same level. The change was subtle, but important. It suggested equality rather than hierarchy. The humans had requested this modification, and nobody had felt comfortable refusing. Captain Brooks sat at the new table alongside Dr. Martinez and Lieutenant Colonel Johnson. Around them, the most senior representatives from each major species had gathered for what everyone knew would be a historic negotiation. The atmosphere was tense, but respectful. Fear had given way to cautious curiosity about what the humans actually wanted. Before we discuss membership terms, Brooks began, we want to share some observations about the current galactic situation. Dr. Martinez has been analyzing your economic and technological data. Martinez activated a holographic display above the table. Charts and graphs filled the air, showing trade patterns, resource allocation, and technological development across the galaxy. The information was more detailed and comprehensive than anything the Council had ever compiled about itself. Your civilization has been remarkably stable for the past 3,000 years, Martinez explained, but stability has come at the cost of growth. Technological advancement has slowed to almost nothing. Economic inequality between species has increased, and several critical resources are being depleted without any plan for replacement. Senator Veltar shifted uncomfortably in his crystalline seat. Our system has brought peace and prosperity to billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Stability is not a weakness. We're not criticizing your achievements, Brooks said carefully, but we are concerned about long-term sustainability. At current rates of resource consumption, several key mining worlds will be exhausted within 500 years. Your transportation systems are inefficient and waste enormous amounts of energy. And most troubling, birth rates among member species have been declining for centuries. The last point hit home hard. Several representatives looked shocked that the humans had identified what the Council considered its most closely guarded secret. Most advanced species in the galaxy were slowly dying out, their populations shrinking as their citizens lost interest in reproduction. It was a problem that had been growing worse for generations, but nobody wanted to admit it publicly. Dr. Zilketh's feathers turned a deep purple color that indicated serious concern. How did you discover our population data? Those records are classified at the highest levels, Johnson answered with a slight smile. We're very good at gathering information. It's a survival trait that has served humanity well. The implied threat was clear, but politely delivered. If humans could access the Council's most secret files, what else could they do? The representatives exchanged worried glances, but nobody pressed the issue further. What exactly are you proposing? Asked High Counselor Drakmore. His skin had settled into a neutral gray color, which for his species indicated careful attention without emotional commitment. Martinez manipulated the holographic display to show new charts and projections. We propose a comprehensive modernization program for the entire galactic civilization. New energy technologies that are clean and renewable. Improved transportation systems that can move goods and people more efficiently. Medical advances that can help address the population decline. And economic reforms that ensure more equitable distribution of resources. Ambassador Quill Nash pulsed with skeptical light patterns. These improvements sound wonderful, but what do humans gain from helping us? No species gives away advanced technology without expecting something in return. Brooks nodded appreciatively. A fair question, Ambassador. We gain access to your knowledge and experience in areas where we are still developing. Your understanding of xenobiology could advance our medical science by centuries. Your diplomatic traditions could help us avoid mistakes as we expand into the galaxy. And your cultural diversity offers perspectives that could enrich human civilization immeasurably. You also gain our cooperation rather than our resistance, added Elder Thrakmos from his position near the archive section. A galaxy full of grateful allies is more valuable than a galaxy full of fearful subjects. The old being's words carried obvious wisdom, but several representatives still looked uncertain. Representative Gorthak of the mining guilds voiced what many were thinking. These proposals would fundamentally change how our civilization operates. How do we know that your improvements won't disrupt the social structures that have maintained peace for millennia? Johnson leaned forward slightly. Because we're not proposing to force these changes on anyone. Every species, every world, every individual would have the choice to participate or not. We're offering opportunities, not mandates. Dr. Pierce entered the chamber at that moment, carrying a data crystal that glowed with internal light. She had spent the past 3 days working with alien scientists to compile a comprehensive report on potential human contributions to galactic civilization. I have the preliminary analysis from our joint research teams, she announced. The results are quite remarkable. She activated the crystal, and new holographic displays filled the air above the table. The information showed potential improvements in every area of galactic life, from basic nutrition to advanced space exploration. The projections were conservative, but still showed dramatic improvements in quality of life for every species. Your medical technology alone could extend the average lifespan of most species by 30 to 50%, Dr. Zilketh said, her feathers now bright yellow with excitement. And your proposed agricultural improvements could feed twice the HFY current galactic population while using half the resources. Counselor Nemri clicked her mandibles together in the gesture her species used to express amazement. The economic projections show increased prosperity for every member world, with particular benefits for the smaller and less developed colonies. There is one concern, spoke Dr. Mordell, his blob-like form shifting to a worried orange color. These improvements would make every species in the galaxy dependent on human technology. What happens if humans decide to withdraw their support or use it as leverage against us? The question struck at the heart of everyone's fears. No matter how beneficial the human proposals might be, they would fundamentally shift the balance of power in the galaxy. Humans would become indispensable, which was both attractive and terrifying. Brooks had expected this concern and was ready with an answer. We propose to establish joint research facilities on neutral worlds, staffed by teams from multiple species. All technological advances would be shared freely, with full documentation and training provided to any species that wants it. We don't want to create dependency. We want to create partnership. Martinez added, we're also prepared to share the fundamental principles behind our technologies, not just the finished products. Within a few decades, any species that wants to could develop these capabilities independently. The offer was generous beyond anything the Council had expected. Not only were the humans willing to share their advanced technology, but they were offering to teach others how to recreate and improve upon it. It was an unprecedented level of cooperation between species. High Counselor Drakmore looked around, the table at his fellow representatives. The fear and suspicion that had dominated the earlier discussions was giving way to cautious optimism. These proposals will require extensive review and debate. But I think I speak for the Council when I say that we are impressed by your approach. Brooks smiled. We understand that major changes take time to implement. We're prepared to start with small pilot programs and demonstrate our commitment through actions rather than words. As the meeting concluded, it was clear that the dynamics of galactic civilization had shifted permanently. The humans had not conquered the Council through force. They had won it over through the promise of a better future for everyone. 6 months had passed since humanity's dramatic arrival at the Galactic Council, and the changes were already visible throughout known space. Captain Brooks stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Terra station, watching human and alien workers collaborate on building projects that would have been impossible for either group alone. The station orbited a small moon in neutral space, serving as headquarters for the joint human-alien research programs. Dr. Martinez walked up beside him, carrying a tablet that displayed the latest progress reports. Her hair had grown longer during their extended stay in space, and she looked more relaxed than she had in months. The initial tensions with the alien species had gradually given way to genuine friendship and mutual respect. The medical exchange program is exceeding all expectations, she reported with obvious satisfaction. Dr. Zilketh's team has developed treatments for 3 genetic disorders that have plagued humanity for centuries. Meanwhile, our regenerative medicine techniques are helping the Karathi recover from battle injuries that would have been permanent disabilities. Brooks nodded as he watched a group of human engineers working alongside insectoid memory technicians to install new power systems. The collaboration was remarkable considering that 6 months ago, most of these species had never seen a human before. What about the other programs? The agricultural initiatives are showing incredible results on 12 different worlds. The Altarian Republic has increased their food production by 400% using our hydroponics technology combined with their mineral extraction expertise. The trade efficiency improvements have reduced shipping costs by 60% across most major routes. The success was gratifying, but Brooks knew that not everything had gone smoothly. There had been resistance from some conservative factions who feared that too much change would destabilize their societies. A few species had declined to participate in the joint programs at all, preferring to maintain their traditional ways of life. Humans had learned to respect these choices, even when they disagreed with them. Lieutenant Colonel Johnson appeared in the corridor behind them, moving with his usual precise military bearing. His role had evolved from security chief to liaison officer, helping to coordinate between human military forces and the various alien defense organizations. The work suited him well, as it required both diplomatic skills and strategic thinking. Admiral Shaw sends his compliments, Johnson reported. The new joint patrol system is working better than anyone hoped. Human ships working with Karathi. Escorts have eliminated piracy in the Outer Rim sectors completely. The pirates can't match our technology, and they can't outfight the Karathi warriors. Brooks smiled at that news. The partnership between humans and Karathi had been one of the most surprising developments of the past months. Colonel Bracknell, who had taken command after his general's death in the demonstration, had become one of humanity's strongest supporters on the council. The Karathi had embraced human military technology with enthusiasm, while humans had learned valuable lessons about honor and discipline from the warrior species. Dr. Pierce entered the observation area, looking excited about something. She had been working with xenobiologists from dozens of different species, studying the incredible diversity of life throughout the galaxy. Her research was contributing to breakthroughs in everything from medicine to agriculture to environmental restoration. "You need to see this," she said, activating a holographic display in the center of the room. "We've just received reports from the first joint exploration mission to the Vega sector. They've discovered not just habitable worlds, but worlds with indigenous life that show signs of developing intelligence. The implications were staggering. Finding new worlds was valuable for resources and colonization, but discovering new intelligent species was infinitely more important. Each new civilization brought unique perspectives, technologies, and cultural contributions that could benefit everyone. "How many worlds?" Brooks asked. "At least 7 with complex life and 3 that show clear signs of tool use and primitive agriculture. The exploration team is requesting permission to make first contact with the most advanced species." Johnson frowned slightly. "That's going to require very careful handling. We've seen what happens when advanced civilizations encounter primitive ones. It doesn't always end well for the primitives." Brooks agreed. Humanity's own history included too many examples of technologically superior cultures overwhelming and destroying less advanced societies. The Galactic Council had protocols for first contact situations, but they had been written for gradual discoveries, not systematic exploration programs. "What does the Council recommend?" Brooks asked. Pierce consulted her tablet. "They want to form a joint first contact committee with representatives from multiple species, including humans. The idea is to approach these new civilizations very slowly and carefully, learning about their cultures before making any direct contact." "That makes sense," Martinez agreed. "We need to understand what we're dealing with before we potentially disrupt entire civilizations." The conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the station's communication system. "All senior staff, to the main conference room. Priority Alpha meeting beginning immediately." The 4 humans exchanged glances. Priority Alpha meant urgent news that could affect galactic security. They made their way quickly through the station's corridors, passing groups of humans and aliens working together on various projects. The sight still amazed Brooks sometimes. Just months ago, these species had viewed each other with suspicion and fear. Now they were collaborating as naturally as if they had been allies for centuries. The conference room was already crowded when they arrived. High Counselor Drakmore was present via hologram from the main council station, along with representatives from every major species. Admiral Shaw had arrived from the human fleet, and even Elder Thrakmos had joined the meeting from his archive facility. "We have received a priority transmission from our deep space monitoring stations," Drakmore announced without preamble. "Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching from outside the galaxy. The fleet appears to be artificial in origin and is following a direct course toward the core worlds." A holographic star map appeared above the conference table, showing the approaching fleet as a cluster of red dots moving through empty space. The scale was enormous. Hundreds of ships, each one larger than anything in the current galactic fleet. "Do we know who they are?" asked Senator Veltar, his stone-like features showing obvious concern. "Unknown," Drakmore replied. "The ship designs don't match any known technology. Their energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases, and they are not responding to any communication attempts." Admiral Shaw studied the tactical display with professional interest. "How long until they reach inhabited space?" "At their current speed, approximately 4 months to the first colony worlds, 6 months to the core systems." The room fell silent as everyone absorbed the implications. An unknown alien fleet was approaching the galaxy, and nobody knew what their intentions might be. After thousands of years of relative peace, the galactic civilization was facing its first external threat. Brooks looked around the room at the assembled representatives. Humans, Karathi, Altarians, Zephyrians, and dozens of other species, all working together to address a common challenge. 6 months ago, such cooperation would have been impossible. Now it seemed natural. "What are our options?" he asked. The war room aboard Terra Station had become the nerve center for the largest military mobilization in galactic history. Admiral Shaw stood before a massive holographic display showing the positions of every Allied fleet in known space. The unknown. Invasion force was now only 2 months away from the outer colonies, and preparations were reaching a fevered pace. Captain Brooks coordinated with fleet commanders from a dozen different species, each bringing their unique strengths to the defense effort. The Karathi provided fierce warriors and battle-tested tactics. The Altarians contributed their superior shield technology and defensive expertise. The Zephyrians offered their unmatched speed and reconnaissance capabilities. And the humans brought their devastating weapons and innovative strategies. "Status report," Shaw commanded as he entered the room. Commander Turner, now serving as tactical coordinator for the Joint Fleet, gestured toward the display. "We have 847 ships positioned along 3 defensive lines. The first line consists of fast attack vessels and reconnaissance units. The second line has our heavy battleships and carrier groups. The third line protects the core worlds with fixed defensive platforms and reserve fleets." Dr. Martinez had been working around the clock to upgrade alien ships with human technology. The project was ambitious beyond anything previously attempted, essentially retrofitting an entire galactic fleet in a matter of weeks. "The technology integration is going better than expected," she reported. "Most alien ships now have enhanced shields, improved weapons, and better communication systems. The power output improvements alone have doubled the effective strength of the Allied fleet." Lieutenant Colonel Johnson studied intelligence reports from the approaching enemy. Human long-range scouts had managed to get close enough to gather detailed information about the unknown fleet without being detected. What they found was both impressive and terrifying. "The enemy ships are massive," Johnson briefed the assembled officers. "Their smallest vessels are larger than our biggest battleships. They appear to be using some kind of exotic matter technology that we don't understand. But here's the interesting part. Their formations and movement patterns suggest they're not used to fighting opponents with advanced technology." Dr. Pierce looked up from her analysis of the alien ship designs. "Based on the hull configurations and engine signatures, I believe these beings evolved in a different galaxy entirely. Their technology developed along completely different lines from ours. That could be either an advantage or a disadvantage for us." Brooks studied the tactical projections with growing concern. Even with all their improvements and combined fleets, the numbers were not encouraging. The enemy had a significant advantage in total firepower and ship count. Victory would require more than just superior technology. It would require perfect coordination and tactical brilliance. "What about communication?" he asked. "Have we made any progress in contacting them?" High Counselor Drakmore's holographic image flickered as he joined the briefing from the main council station. "We have transmitted messages in over 300 different languages and mathematical concepts. They acknowledge our transmissions but do not respond. Either they cannot understand us or they choose not to." The grim possibility hung unspoken. In the air, if the approaching fleet had no interest in communication, their intentions were likely hostile. The galaxy would have to defend itself against an enemy that might see all local life as obstacles to be removed. Admiral Shaw made the decision that everyone had been expecting. "We proceed with full defensive preparations. All fleets will engage. The enemy at maximum range using coordinated attacks. Human ships will focus on their heavy units while Allied forces handle their smaller vessels. If we can break their formation and force them to fight as individuals rather than as a coordinated fleet, we might have a chance." Over the following weeks, the combined fleet drilled constantly. Human officers worked alongside alien commanders to develop new tactics that took advantage of each species' strengths. The Karathi learned to use human weapons with devastating effect. Human pilots trained in alien fighters that could perform maneuvers impossible in human-designed craft. The level of cooperation was unprecedented in galactic history. Captain Stone, now commanding a mixed squadron of human and Karathi ships, reported remarkable progress. "The warriors are adapting to our technology faster than I thought possible. They've taken our kinetic weapons and modified them with their own targeting systems. The combination is incredibly effective." Dr. Zilketh had been working with human medical teams to develop emergency treatment protocols for different species. The biological diversity of our alliance is actually an advantage, she explained to the medical staff. Diseases or weapons that might be effective against one species are unlikely to affect all of us. We can provide mutual support in ways that a single species fleet could not. As the enemy fleet entered the outer edge of the galaxy, long-range sensors provided the first clear images of individual ships. The vessels were unlike anything in galactic records, sleek, organic-looking craft that seemed to flow through space rather than traveling through it. Their technology was clearly advanced, but it followed principles that no one understood. The first contact came not through communication, but through action. A small scout group from the unknown fleet encountered a joint patrol of human and Altarian ships near the edge of the Kepler system. The engagement lasted less than 5 minutes and ended with the complete destruction of the alien scouts, but not before they transmitted detailed information about the Allied forces back to their main fleet. They know what they're facing now, observed Commander Turner as he analyzed the battle recordings. Their scouts transmitted full sensor sweeps of our ships and weapons. They'll be prepared for our technology when the main battle begins. Brooks nodded grimly. Then we'll have to be prepared for theirs. All fleets, advance to first contact positions. It's time to see what these invaders are really capable of. The final approach began with the largest fleet movement in galactic history. Nearly 1,000 ships from dozens of different species moved into defensive positions, their crews united by a common purpose despite their vast biological and cultural differences. Human innovations had made them stronger, but their diversity had made them adaptable. As the unknown fleet drew closer, it became clear that this would be more than just a battle for territory or resources. It would be a test of whether different species could truly work together when faced with an existential threat. The old Galactic Council had maintained peace through separation and careful balance. The new alliance would prove itself through unity and shared sacrifice. Admiral Shaw's final message to all fleet commanders was simple but powerful. We stand together as one galactic civilization. Today we discover whether cooperation is stronger than conquest. The enemy fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their ships gleaming with unknown energies. The battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and humanity had helped unite the stars against a common foe. Whatever happened next, the galaxy would never be the same.